Hey, good morning, guys. Welcome back to the channel. We are finally on round two after a very long and drawn out process. 40 episodes to complete the first round. I was actually strongly considering taking a full entire week off from making the next round, but man, when I make these tournament videos, I try to complete them as quickly as I can because, part of it is, yeah, I don't want you guys to have to sit around for days on end waiting for the next video to come out. Another thing is, I myself am eager to see who's going to face off against who. I'm eager to get to the end because I want to see who I choose. It's too easy for me to go back and say, hey, the winner from my previous tournament is going to win this one. And you know what? He might very well do so, but it's not a guarantee. And that's the fun part about these tournaments. It's that journey of getting from point A to point B to see not only who wins the tournament, but what figures make it as far as they do. But there are a lot of great figures that get eliminated the first time go. And you might have said figure very first matchup of the whole entire tournament, and he's eliminated. And you know what? You looked at that figure like, damn, this is a figure I thought had a potential to win this tournament, and he's gone in the very first matchup. It happens. That is luck of the draw. But you know what? When I was doing it, by the way that the figures were situated on the shelves, that didn't really help any. Great figures were still getting eliminated first time go, so I like doing the blind drawings. It sucks. It hurts a lot of time, especially when you see the matches. Sometimes you just want to throw your hands up and be like, man, I quit. Because it's like, man, I don't want the bad figures to move on to the next round. I want the ones that I know have the best opportunity for success. But it doesn't always play out that way, so. And I just see another one of my Rick Martel, Tio Santana figures on the floor again. I gotta stop putting them on those darn LJN stands. They don't work. You guys know the LJN stands I'm talking about. Anyways, guys, so 40 episodes to complete round one. Sorry. That means we're looking at about 20 episodes to get through round two. 40 episodes. So that's 8 figures per. So that don't seem right because that's 8 figures per episode. 40 episodes, that's 320 figures. And I thought I had somewhere, with all the additions, I thought I had like 325. But I came out to be 320 even? No, that don't seem right. Somewhere I missed a figure or two. That's okay. If that happened, oh well. But that leaves us at 160 figures to go. So 160 figures. So 80 matchups. Yep, 20 videos. 20 videos, 80 matchups. I'm more like once we get into round 3 because then at least it'll be a more manageable amount of videos per round. But let's get started and see what happens. Awesome first selection. Zeus takes on. This is what I'm talking about. 2 round 5ers are going against each other. I know I say that a lot. Not every figure can be a round 5. Round 5 is going to give you like what? 8 figures? 16 figures? And I say that about 50 or 70, 100 figures, but still. 1, 2, 3 kid takes on Zeus. Rick Rude, Volume 2, will take on Bob Orton. I actually had Bob Orton in round 2. How the heck did that happen? Now I want to know who the heck did Bob Orton take on? Bob Backlund? Andre Tall taking on This is the first video, and this video sucks. Colonel Mustafa. Hogan, which is the Rocky variant that my wife painted, takes on Adrian Adonis, and that's going to conclude this video. Well, not conclude this video, but we'll conclude the matchups for this one. So I will pause, get these figures pulled, and we will begin shortly. Alright, folks. Figures drawn. And let's begin. First matchup I said was Zeus taking on 1-2-3 Kid. And this is your first matchup. Every time I talk, man, my freaking tags always fly away. I gotta stop doing that. Hopefully I got them going against the right person. I think that I got these right. Alright, cool. Yeah. So, when I look at certain figures, certain matchups, and I put the two figures together, I'm like, dude, this should be like literally a final match. Like, this is round 7, last 2 men standing type of deal. That is how good both of these figures are. And to see them going against each other in the first round or second round, first three to four rounds. And yes, I know by the 4th round, it's really the elite figures, but no. There's certain figures you want to see go further than even 4 rounds. And these are both them. These are both easily 5-6 round figures. But we'll start with Zeus. And I mentioned before, man, Tiny Lister. Yeah, my best memory of Tiny Lister is obviously the Friday movies, right? And you know, he always plays a big bad guy, big butch dude. And it's kind of funny. My roommate, back at Fort Lee, Virginia, when I was in AIT, we were both in Gulf Company, and when we got assigned to our permanent duty stations, we were both assigned to Fort Hood, Texas. And we were assigned to the same unit, and we ended up being roommates on post in the barracks. And I always said, man, you know, with your glasses off, dude, you remind me of freaking Tiny Lister. What did I call him? I didn't call him Tiny Lister. I called him, what the heck was his name in Friday? I'm trying to think. I haven't seen that freaking movie in forever, but I always called him, the character that he played in Friday. And, you know, I think he always got a chuck out of that. But it's pretty cool that he freaking looked just like him. I thought that was freaking awesome. Tiny Lister, he's an actor. He's an actor, he's a professional, and when you put him in a wrestling setting, and I think wrestling is more like 75% acting and like 25% athletics, so I don't think it's not even 50-50, but I mean, it's about performance, right? And of course he was going to perform well because he's playing the road to perfection. I don't know why No Holds Barred gets such hate, but I loved that movie as a kid, and I watched it as an adult about a year or two ago for the first time in God knows how long, and I still freaking love that movie. It was still funny. It was just a great movie. Great plot, great storyline. Hulk Hogan may not be the greatest actor in the world, but he held his own. I think he did a good job. It was just a fun movie. And what was it? Suburban Commando. Another movie, another Hulk Hogan movie I've always loved. And I watched that movie probably last year. And I'm like, yeah, this movie's fucking trash. Excuse my language. I'm like, this is a really cheesy sci-fi movie. But it's one of those really terrible, cheesy sci-fi movies, Suburban Commando now, that Yeah, you know it's lame, you know it's gonna be stupid and lame, but you can sit back and really enjoy it because you're not expecting the world. And it's kind of funny to hear The Undertaker talk about how it's like the worst movie ever made. And theoretically, possible ish. I mean, I don't think it's worse than Joker 2, but I mean, it was. For what it was, I'm pretty sure, yeah, a lot of fans, a lot of adults probably would not have gotten a lot of out of it. But as a kid, I've always liked Suburban Commando. And even when I watched it last year, I'm like, yeah, this is really stupid. But because I've always been a fan, I still liked it. I don't know why. For me, Tiny Lister, because even when he was portraying Zeus in WWF, and he was coming like Survivor Series, etc., right? I still felt like he was the biggest competition for Hogan. Like he was like the one threat. Like I didn't really view Warrior or Yokozuna, Undertaker, Macho Man. I really didn't view them in the same light that I viewed Zeus. Like I really felt like Zeus is the one like was like a brick house, man. Like you punch this man in the face, it'd be like punching a brick wall. So that just kind of what. So getting this figure in and kind of thinking back those memories. When I got this figure in, I'm like, shoot, I had to immediately come downstairs and make a video about it because I was just so excited about the figure. Aesthetically, overall look, color scheme that I absolutely love. I mean, I love wearing dark colors. I'm all about wearing gray and black. So, accessory, great look, name recognition, came from a freaking movie that I loved. When I talk about all the things I love about Bruiser Brody, hey man, Zeus is a figure for me that has all those features that I love that I look for. Play pose, the man has everything. So when I say legitimate competition for against Bruiser Brody, again, Brody is still on my pedestal because he's my champion. He Zeus has already won a tournament. Has already won a tournament. He's already won the My Favorite Random Treasures tournament. He may not have won a My Favorite LJN tournament yet, but he is a tournament winner. A type of tournament winner, I should say, but a tournament winner nonetheless. So yeah, absolute definite possibility that Zeus could win this one. But does he? That's the question. There are very few figures that I put above the Raider Nation's 1-2-3 Kid. Now, when I look at 1-2-3 Kid and I look at Coco Beware and I look at Honky Tonk Man from the Raider Nation, yes, those are really the three figures I put as the most cream of the crop figures that I've gotten from them. When I look at their series, well, I thought it was a series 1, but it's actually a series 2. Based on the play pose, the way that the arms are in a little bit more, you could tell when you actually look at the figure, it actually is a Series 2 Andre the Giant. But they changed out the head mold, they gave him the long hair, and that's why, again, I thought it was a Series 1. I think that one is a bona fide contender as well. May not have all the color scheme that you see, but yeah, any of those figures from Raider Nation is spectacular. 1-2-3 Kid is very high on my list of LJN figures that were not made, obviously, but there's certain characters that I coveted that when I started collecting LJNs, there are certain characters that I wanted customized to be LJN. Yokozuna, I will say it a million times, will always be very high on my list until he's actually made. 1-2-3 Kid, not this version. I wanted him in his blue singlet, but I still got a 1-2-3 Kid, and I'm thrilled about that. The Rockers, well, we finally got those from Random Treasure, so that can be checked off the list. But there are certain characters, and this was a perfect one. Yes, they take a Rick Martel. Very slim body, perfect pose. Rick Martel, when you actually look at the figure of Rick Martel and you look at 1-2-3 Kid, like, man, you know what? The Rick Martel LJN makes an absolutely perfect complement to 1-2-3 Kid. You would think that if you didn't know about LJNs or know about this, you would think that this really was made for Sean Waltman. So, do I covet the play pose of the 1-2-3 Kid more than Zeus? I don't know. I think they are both very playable figures where you can have enjoyment on both. Now, yeah, I said Rick Martel is probably a little bit more playable than basically Arn Anderson. That's basically what the pose is. But I think Arn Anderson's arms are in a little bit more and down. So this is extended a little bit further out. So maybe not so much Arn Anderson like I've been calling him. This really is a tough battle. Is 1-2-3 Kid a legitimate contender for the victory? Absolutely. Is he a third round figure? Of course. Can he defeat others to make it to the fourth round? Yes. Do I still claim he's a fifth round figure? Absolutely. Is he as good as Bruiser Brody? I would argue yes. I would argue that the figure is as good. There are certain aspects of Bruiser Brody that I enjoy, such as added accessory. Accessories are not necessary, but it is a nice compliment. And yeah, it does put it over the top if it does have that one bonus. If this figure is a 10 out of 10 and that figure is a 10 out of 10, and both figures have absolutely everything you're looking for, but one figure has an accessory and the other one doesn't, that does help give you that extra criteria to search for. We're already at 16, almost 17 minutes, so I am going to go with Zeus. It was a tough call, but Zeus has to be my winner, man. There's just very few that I want to put over Zeus because I think he is elite, literally among best of the best of the LJN figures that I have. All right, so next figure, next matchup is going to feature Volume 2 Rick Rude as he does battle against Bob Orton. And why do I have Billy Jack Haynes' hat on here? Well, this is a spare figure anyway, so it doesn't matter. This isn't one of my main display figures. And I am deeply surprised to see Bob Orton in round 2. Like I said, there are certain figures that when you look up and down your roster or your collections, you know that they do not belong in the second round, let alone potential to go on to round 3, round 4, etc., right? Bob Orton is one of LJN's worst figures ever made. Easy, hands down. This is going to be a top 4, top 5 worst LJN ever made. And I got to go back to my notes because I'm curious to see who he squared off against in round 1 that allowed him to move on to round 2. I mean, how bad was the other figure? That's crazy. So, well, I look at figures like Hercules Hernandez from the original LJN, right? And I look at Bob Orton, trying to see if there's like another really bad one I could really put on this list. But Bob Orton, display-wise, with the vest, the look is fine. You throw his hat accessory, it's a fine-looking figure for display purposes. It's a fine look overall. I mean, thin, sure, but it's acceptable. It's just the fact that, one, you got one arm off to the side that it's not a punch. You can't really use it as a punch figure. You can't do a clothesline with this. And because of how close or how in tight it is to the side, you can't even do a legitimate DDT with this. So the right arm is basically unusable. So we move on to the left arm. Okay. If one arm is unusable, as long as you have one serviceable arm, i.e. Vince McMahon, who has a fused hand to the chest, but he has one arm out to the side, right? But that one arm out to the side is very serviceable, and it can be very used as a playable action figure. He is an elbow drop only guy. I mean, maybe you grab someone by the back and kind of like flip them over your shoulder or something. This is terrible. As much as we like to complain about the Jesse Ventura like this, where you're basically side punching him, or the axe figure, this is even worse. Horrible, horrible design. Like, what? Why? I didn't grow up watching Bob Orton. I didn't know about him in the 90s, I don't think. I don't know, man. There's certain people from the certain figures from the LJN line that from the 80s that you would think I probably would have known about or heard about watching wrestling in the 90s. Maybe I did. I just don't remember them or remember hearing about them. But Bob Orton. I think Randy Orton was his son. Yeah, it wasn't his grandson. It was his son. So Orton family, that's another family, because I think Bob Orton Jr., if I'm not mistaken, I think his father was also a professional wrestler. So Orton family. When I talk about wrestling family nobility, there's certain family members or family names I always talk about, such as Rhodes family, right? The Hart family come up a lot. Orton family are definitely belong on that list. I mean, they've got a nice little showing of Pafko family, maybe, with Randy Savage and Lanny Pafko. I think their father may have been wrestling. I'm just kind of looking at the LGN line to see who else is up on that list. But yeah, there's the Anoa'i family, obviously. They've got like 100 million different family members that wrestle professionally, but it's a really bad figure. He takes on Rick Rude, Volume 2. And not really much more about Rick Rude that I can say about in this video that I haven't said already in the previous video or a previous time I brought this figure up. I was excited when I heard that Random Treasures was making a new Rick Rude figure. I'm like, okay, I get it. The original, even though I don't like when new LJNs are being made of LJN figures that already exist or LJN characters that already exist, I was okay with the idea of Rick Rude simply because his original figure was an unserviceable figure. But if you were to make a Rick Rude, I wanted to see the most splendid, perfect figure you could ever think of. And we got a Tom Zank, basically, and I'm like, no. Tom Zank is not a good Galoob figure. There are plenty of ideas, plenty of poses to go from, but this would not have been my first selection. You know, face-wise and the hair, I mean, the head is perfect. The head is splendid. The pants, I mean, this isn't exactly graphics I would have ever thought about in a million years, but I mean, it's a fine look with the pants and boots. This is not a bad figure. It's not bad at all. But like I said, because when I found out that Rick Rude was being made, I just had this idea of the most pristine, perfect figure ever, and because I put Rick Rude on such a high pedestal of possibilities, and I got this, and I'm like, if I had just thought, okay, Rick Rude, great, or if I hadn't thought about it one bit or the other, one way or another, I would like, oh, okay, this is a great figure, but no, I had put it so high up and praised it so much that when I finally got the figure, I'm like, I was kind of let down. And I'm actually, and you know what, Rick Rude, he's going to win this matchup. We already know. There's not even a shadow of a doubt that Rick Rude loses to freaking Bob freaking Orton. Come on now. But is this Rick Rude a round 3 figure? I look at the LJN wall, I look at the originals, I look at the custom wall, I'm like, I'm surprised this Rick Rude made it to round 2. Because there's not a lot of figures I think that this Rick Rude could have defeated. And making it to round 2, okay, maybe he came against Mean Gene Okerlund, or I don't know, maybe a Hercules or a Roddy Piper or something, you know. a very mediocre, low leverage type figure. But now he finds himself in round 3. For this particular figure, that is a fine run. Now I say anyone that's eliminated first couple rounds is a waste. Round 3 is a average, mediocre to average run. Round 4, you've had a pretty decent run if you make it to round 4. Round 5 and above is obviously a fantastic run, but a round 3 run for this one is pretty freaking spectacular. If he makes it to round 4, better than I could have ever imagined. Next one, and this is probably going to be my most difficult decision. It's going to feature from the Raider Nation, Tall Andre, as he squares off against Colonel Mustafa. So, kind of compare the figures here, and you show the difference. We will look at the Tall Andre, which is about as big as my head. I talked about 2 months ago, 3 months ago, I don't know, man. I was down here and I had that ring out. Who was it? I know it was one of my viewers. And I can't remember who it was. It's driving me nuts. But he had asked me, he's like, hey man, do you ever plan on filming some wrestling matches or whatever? And I'm like, no, I don't do that. I don't play with these guys. They're for display only. But he's like, hey, it'd be fun to see you make some matches. I'm like, so, you know, I sat on it for a while. One day I was bored. Nothing to watch on TV. I had just got done mowing the grass earlier in the day. I just got done showering and whatnot. And I'm like, you know, I was down here. I'm like, you know what? Let me make some Royal Rumble matches. And I pulled out like 30 of my favorite figures. And I actually filmed like an hour and 10-minute Royal Rumble match. So I actually had a full-on real Royal Rumble, right? Every couple minutes, new member come out. And this is the Andre that I selected. And man, this was a killer piece to use. I mean, he's not rubber. He's like, I don't even know if I don't know if that's resin. He is like a statue, but I mean, what's that? Is that resin? I mean, is it metal? Is it steel? Is it glass? I mean, I don't know. I can't really tell. Because this figure feels different than my actual resin figures. So maybe it is resin. I don't know. It just feels different. But one downside, the way that this arm, it's a little bit too big, too long out there. And maybe because this arm is kind of like bent, obviously, it doesn't look like from shoulder to elbow it's as stretched out as far. So I think that this is just too long. But otherwise, this is a great looking figure. And when I say figures that I think, I don't know if this one would necessarily win this tournament, right? But I felt like this was a round 4 figure. Round 5, maybe, who knows? With the right matchups, this was a fun one. And I think I did save that video to my YouTube, or did I? I'm trying to think. Maybe I saved it but private it, or I couldn't upload it and I deleted the videos. I don't remember really. I think that's what happened. Plus, I talked about in the past, my freaking commentary sucks. Because when I'm doing commentary, I'm only talking about the figures that I'm actually using at that particular moment. And I'm only talking about what's going on. So I'm not giving you like actual, like, I'm giving you a play-by-play basically. So I'd have to have someone else do like voiceovers to kind of do like real commentary for me. But again, I don't know what the hell I'm doing wrestling, man. I haven't watched wrestling for 25 plus years, and to sit down and try to wrestle these the same way I would as a kid, it's weird. It's awkward. You don't play the same way as an adult the way you would as a kid. A kid, you know what you're doing. As an adult, you feel out of place. you, like I said, it's weird, it's awkward because you don't remember the moves and techniques and takedowns and all that, so it's not the same. Raider Nation, 2 Andre figures I got from them, and I had to pick them up as soon as I could because I was worried that these were going to sell out pretty quickly. And I don't know about this matchup. This is a tough one. I don't know if Andre defeats Colonel Mustafa. I love the size. I love Andre more than Iron Sheik, of course. I really like the look of the guy. I like the weight, I like the size, but when I got this figure I think this is the figure that started it all. Where I said I looked at the figure, I'm like, man, I have to do another My Favorite LJN tournament. I have to. Because I think if I do another tournament, this could defeat the Bruiser Brody Custom. Maybe. No guarantees. I don't know. And I've said before, if Colonel Mustafa faced Bruiser Brody in like the first round, second round, maybe Bruiser Brody wins because it would be hard to choose a new figure over one that's already won multiple tournaments. But if this guy makes it to round 7, let's say Bruiser Brody's back in the finals again, that would change things because now I've had 6 rounds to look at this figure over and really gain a better appreciation for him. So if that happens, I could be like, hey, maybe finally Bruiser Brody loses. I don't know. I am going to choose Colonel Mustafa, but this was no slouch match, okay? This isn't something that I took lightly. This is just too good of a figure, man. And I do want to spend some time talking about this particular one, only for the simple fact that I think you guys as the viewers deserve an opportunity to see more of the Colonel Mustafa figure. Now, taking a original LJN Iron Sheik, which is one of my least favorite pieces, right? Building clothing, like they literally put clothing over this guy, and with all the creases and different crevices, the way that they did the beret, right? Perfect yank of the beret, the way that it kind of folds in the back, the way they got the crease over the flash, and it's perfectly, well, actually, it's not perfectly situated over the left eye, but I mean, it's relatively close. The flash is supposed to be like directly smack right over the middle of the left eye, but he's an Iraqi, well, here he's an Iraqi soldier, so obviously different from American soldiers, but that's how American soldier, we'd have the flash right over the left eye, right down the middle. I don't recognize any of these, but you could like even see like his ribbons and medals and stuff. This is just so freaking good, man. This is so well made. And this is a figure that if Ram Treasures put this on their store and sold this for $150, I would have bought this without any problems, any complaints, would have actually fell in love with this. This is absolute perfection. The fact that I was able to buy this from a seller for $20 makes this probably the greatest LJN purchase of my life. Among the loose customs. I mean, considering that Bruiser Brody at one point I bought from Eric and I paid $250 for it. And that at one point was the highest amount of money I ever paid on an action figure at that point. But I was also overseas at the time, and with that extra income, I was actually able to afford that $250. So that obviously made it a little bit easier. Also considering that it was Eric and I bought from him before and he was a friend. You know, if it was just some random dude I just saw on eBay, yeah, I probably wouldn't have bought it for no $250, but because certain buyers or certain sellers you are willing to pay up for based on who they are. But $20. $20 for possibly the greatest action figure known to man. This is... How do you beat that? And every time I bring this up, this is the second time I brought this figure up now in this tournament. And every time I look at it, I'm like, Bruiser Brody's in trouble. I know I still have favorites. I still have that Bret Hart with jacket, which is still a fan favorite of mine. I still got that Dragon Ricky Steamboat figure, which is a big, huge favorite. This is obviously top of the line. The Berserker, I think, is the top of the line. I still think Zeus is top of the line. I should have actually made a video prior to this one where I kind of talked about all of my different figures that I feel like have the best chance of winning this tournament. But, yeah, this is definitely going to be way up there, I think. Excuse me. Got heartburn or something. Keep having a cough or sneeze or burp or something. But you feel the burn in your chest, though. This one was Adrian Adonis versus Hogan. So, this is the last matchup for this video. And Adrian Adonis, this is just a secondary figure I pulled, so I didn't have to touch my main figure. Adrian Adonis, is he going to win this tournament? Not likely. Probably less than 2% chance of winning. Probably less than 0.1%, 0.2% chance of winning. It's a fantastic figure. When I got this figure, nose is stuffy. I need to get me some darn tissues down here. Where was I? When I got this figure, memories. When I got this figure, I didn't have much love for it. It was like Greg Valentine. Greg Valentine, as I said before, I watched him growing up, but he was not a Coco Beware. Like, I view Coco Beware as a jobber. I don't think of him as a superstar. How he gets as much love and appreciation, I don't know. Coco Beware is constantly beaten up. I mean, he doesn't, at least from my point of view, it doesn't look like he has the most talent in the world. But he's really over with the fans, and he gets some of the best action figures ever, but he has some of the best looks. But yeah, Coco Beware. He was above Coco Beware, though. And I don't remember Greg Valentine from the 80s. Obviously, I know Greg Valentine of the 90s. And Greg Valentine was not a major superstar of the 90s. Obviously, starting collecting LJNs, you learn about these guys, and you're like, okay, yeah, this guy really was a superstar in the 80s. Tag team champion, intercontinental champion, okay? In the 90s, he was just a guy to come into a Royal Rumble, spend like 15, 20, 25 minutes in there, hold his own, but not someone that really threatened to do anything. When I got the Greg Valentine figure, it was nothing special. It was just something to have for the collection. Like Adrian Adonis. I didn't care about the figure. I thought the figure was stupid. I didn't like the pose. I thought the pose was lame. The whole makeup, I mean, I understand it. And the whole tilting of the leg, the way it's kicked out. I mean, there were so many things wrong with the figure that I just was not a fan. Over time, especially utilizing that Greg Valentine figure as an example, holy crap, Greg Valentine is actually a super spectacular figure, and I started rating him as my top 5 figure. Adrian Adonis, after a while, I started looking at the figure, and I think it's really when I started watching his wrestling matches on YouTube. And it's always seems to be matches against Hulk Hogan, where he's getting beat up and pinned, but I think that's when I started enjoying him more. I'm like, okay, yeah, he's a big husky guy, but you know what? He seems to be freaking mobile as heck in the ring. And the look started making sense to me, and looking at the figure, I'm like, it's not as bad as you think. All right, yeah, one arm down. All these figures have one arm down. He's got one arm up. That's playable. That's fine. And you can still do one-arm toss-overs, one-arm body slams, punches, clotheslines. The right arm is fine. You can definitely use it as a salvageable playing action figure and have a lot of enjoyment with it. This kind of kills the ability for it to stand on its own, which ruins the figure somewhat. But he's a big, husky, bulky figure that I enjoy. Good weight to it. And you know what? The paint, starting to enjoy it, right? So all of a sudden, I find Adrian Adonis in my top 20 favorite LJN figures. From being a figure I absolutely despise, probably one of my most hated figures, to suddenly be my top 20. So I've garnered a lot of appreciation for the figure. And finding him in round 2, yeah, I'm ecstatic for that. Could he be in round 3, round 4? Absolutely. Does he go to round 5? Probably not. But more than 2 rounds? Sure. He does go up against Hulk Hogan, which, again, I find funny. Every time I see these type of matchups, like Andre the Giant competing against Haku, for example, when you kind of see like these tag team partners go up against each other, or when you send like these real life matchups, and you have like these type of matchups, right? So some folks might look at this and be like, hey, you know what? You only push this one forward because my wife painted it. Not really. Now, there are several things I like about the figure. Number one, and I think I've said this many times, irrelevant what the color scheme is, where I got the figure from, the chances are, if it's a Hulk Hogan Series 1 figure, depending on what the other figure is, there is a good chance that that Hulk Hogan Series 1 figure is moving on to the next round. Because Series 1 Hulk Hogan is, after all, one of the most perfect action figures ever made. So that is a huge bonus right off the bat. Before the match even begins, he's already got a huge leg up. Number 2, yes, my wife painted this. I got it. It means it's more special to me, sure. But I'm not going to simply say, you know what, my wife painted it, it's going to win. No, I can't do that. But the fact that she's not an artist, she's obviously 100,000 times better than me because I couldn't do this, right? But the fact that she's not an artist and did something, I looked at it, I'm like, I'm damn impressed. So I gave her my Remco Rocky 3 Thunderlips figure. And I'm like, hey, this is what I kind of want this figure to look like. Did the white trunks and knee pads. And I just thought she was going to stop with red boots. Kind of like what the Remco figure looks like. But she went the extra mile. Filled in the laces, which I absolutely love. I've always said these figures, they need to have laces filled in because it gives it that extra oomph, that extra design, and really makes the boots and the figure overall pop. And she even kind of blackened out the tongue of the boots, right? So, fantastic. I mean, did she go all out? I mean, did she sit there and like paint the hair or anything? No. But she filled in the wristbands, did a great job overall. Yeah, you feel a little bit of stickiness here and there. Again, she's not a customizer or an artist or anything like that. This was just something we did for fun. I was painting a Bundy figure, which I butchered. And she painted both this and the Santa Claus Hillbilly Jim figure for me. So yeah, she did an absolutely amazing job. Getting me a Thunderlips, I'm like, awesome. I would love to see Adrian Adonis into round 3. I would love to see this figure go at least 2 more rounds, making round 4 or further possible with the right competition. And with so many Hulk Hogan figures, especially Series 1 Hogans, because I think I do have probably, I'm just throwing out a number, 4 Series 1 Hogans. I'm kind of looking, I know I got the original Series 1 in the next tournament. I got this, so far I got this one. I got the white and blue. I think I got the black as well. 4. From Eric, I got his. So that's 5. I don't think I have Mark's, though. I think his lost out. So I might even have 5 or 6 potential Series 1s in round 2. But I would say no less than 3. But probably no more than 6. But I don't remember. So this isn't necessarily going to win against the others. So can I just push Adrian Adonis forward? I want to see Adrian Adonis go far, but like I said, man, there are very few figures that I covet more than a Series 1 Hulk Hogan and Thunderlips. It's a complete new design compared to all the other figures that I have. So I want to see how far this one can actually make it. If it goes 3 rounds and is out, I'd be thrilled with that. I think it would be a nice run for this particular figure. So Thunderlips is going to be in round 3. So second round, first video is in the books. Hopefully you guys are still being entertained. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you in the comments and see you in the next video. Goodbye, everybody.